Welcome to Ivy Lane Home. My name is Lisa, and today I have a great project for you. Well, I hope it's going to be a good project. This video is actually sponsored by Minwax, so I'm super excited to be partnering with them. This is a weird one, and it's either going to be really good or it's going to be really bad. But let me show it to you. Okay, here it is. So you can see they've tried to paint it in a design. Now I'll give it to them. I don't mind the design. You know, it's kind of cool, geometric look. The problem is functionality, because for one, they took out all of the hardware holes, and there is no like underhand, you know, a lot of times when you have mid-century modern, there's like a little area, a lip. Well, there's nothing. So you have no way to like pull it out. So you have to kind of jimmy it out. But there is hardware holes in them, but they've, you know, tried to kind of cover them up. Right there, you see. So the top is laminate, I'm pretty sure. And so it's not amazing, but it's not horrible. And so I just don't know what's going on. Like, what's going on? What's happening here? I don't know. If we look a little closer, this is what kind of concerns me, is that there's all of these sanding swirls. And so I don't know if they tried to refinish it and then decided to just paint it. I don't really know. And then, like, if you look here, this drawer, maybe I have them in the wrong order. I put them in the order according to the design, you know, but this is weird because this like goes over here, and then I've got this room here. So I don't really feel like that should happen, but you know, I think I have them in the right order. So maybe that's just the design of the dresser. There is no maker's mark. So I've got the same thing going on this side too.
So I'm just going to start by stripping those drawers, because they're my biggest concern, because it has that crazy paint pattern on it. So I don't even know what kind of paint they used. I'm not sure if they used a primer. And of course, I'm also not sure what in the world is going on the sides. I'm using my carbide scraper after I've let it set a little bit. And as you can see, it's not really working great. So normally my carbide scraper can get me down to raw really fast, but for some reason, it's just not. The stain, the pattern, it's just like stuck in the wood. And so I'm going in with some acetone, trying to get off some more of that paint. And then I'll use some steel wool after the paper towels and just kind of try to keep working it and see if I can get that paint off. I'm going in with a wire brush and some acetone. So I'll just dip it in there and try to get some of that paint off, because it's just stuck in the wood grain. I pivoted to the side after I got the drawers done, and I'm using a small pocket scraper. It seemed to work really good to get it in. I sharpened the blade on my carbide scraper, and it seemed to do a little bit better on the sides. So again, I'm not really sure what this black like stuff was on the sides, but I'm just trying to get it down to raw. So I may have to go in with something else to try to get some of those stains off, but sides are doing a little bit better.
All right, I'm done stripping it. Let me show you where we're at. So here it is, stripped, and it doesn't look much better. The lines are just so strong, and I have used a brush with acetone to try to get off all this paint. It did the best on the top drawers, but these drawers just did not come out. The sides aren't too bad. I'm gonna let them dry out overnight, and then I will give those a sand. Top is laminate. You can see where they have tried to sand it, and so there are sanding swirls all over it. Can you see that? So I was hoping maybe I could buff it, but they're just everywhere. So no go on that. I'll have to probably just paint this. So I don't know, I'm gonna have to get those stains out of the front of the drawers. I have ordered some 2-part wood bleach. It's Monday, that doesn't come in until Thursday. So in the meantime, tomorrow, I think what I'll do is I'll do a couple rounds of oxalic acid and see if that can kind of lighten some of those dark areas. And then once it dries out, I will sand the sides and see if I can get that discoloration out of the sides as well. So I've got some veneer damage as well on the sides, so I might need to order some walnut banding to replace that. But right now it's just pretty much a hot mess. So we'll see what I can do.
I'm using my Festool sander. I'm at 80 grit, and I'm going to try to just sand off as much as I can, because obviously the acetone and the wire brush wasn't even working. So thankfully this is doing a lot better than I thought it would do. I decided to do a round of oxalic acid, and so you just have some warm water and you mix it up in that warm water, and then you just paint it on like paint. I'm going to apply it and I'm going to let it set until it dries, and then you'll see like these little crystals that'll form on it. You do want to wear PPE with this because you don't want those crystals to get in your lungs. If it's a sunny day, you can kind of set them out, let them dry in the sun, and it'll start doing its thing. Now I'm going to start the sanding process on the side. I'm using 80 grit to begin with, taking off as much of the finish as I can, and then I'll go in with 120 and 180. The legs need to be refinished as well, so sometimes you never know quite how they're attached. So these, all 4 of them were just screwed in, so that's perfect. So I'm going to just unscrew them and then I'll get those stripped. I'm using my little corner cat sander just to get into those hard to reach areas since I have that orbital. And then again, I'm just going to hand sand. So I usually do 80 grit with my sander, and then I'll come back and do 80 grit with my hand sander just to get the sanding swirls out. And because I don't have much finish left, I just hand sand. It goes really fast. So I do the 120, I do the 180, and then I'll pause. I had some veneer problems on some of the frames, so I'm decided to replace it. I'm using a chisel to get off that old veneer. You can use a chisel, you could use steam from an iron, and that should lift the glue. Since it was already kind of chipped off, the chisel worked pretty good. I'll cut my banding to size, just a little bit longer than the piece I need. And then I'm going to iron it down with a dry iron, making sure it's all adhered. Once it's adhered, I'm going to use a flat edge razor blade just to trim off the excess. And then all I have to do is just round out the edges with some sandpaper. Now I'm ready to work on the legs. Since they were really easy to take off, I could strip them, I could carbide scrape them, but because there wasn't a lot of finish left, I decided to use my sander, and I'm just going to sand off that layer of finish. Now that my oxalic acid has had a chance to dry out, I'm ready to rinse it. So according to the direction, you need to rinse it 3 times with water. And then if you're going to move on and use like a water-based stain, they also want you to neutralize it with some vinegar. Once those have had a chance to dry out, I'm ready to do my finish sanding. So I'm going back over it with my hand sanding with 80 grit, then I'll go to 120, and then I'll finish up with 180, and then I'll pause. I've sanded through the grits, and I'm going to clean it with a 50-50 mixture of denatured alcohol and water, and this is going to tell me what it's going to look like when I stain it. Now what you see here is a whole bunch of paint still stuck in the wood grain, so if I were to stain it, this is what it would look like. So we don't want that. So I'm going to put some acetone in a little jelly jar, and I have a kind of a soft wire brush, And I'm going to go with the wood grain, and I'm just going to get the acetone down into that wood grain and get the paint off. And then I'll have to let it dry out after I do this, and then I'll come back and sand it again with 180. And then depending on what stain I use, I may have to sand up to 220. But I usually just wait to decide what paint or what stain I'm going to use, because every stain has a different recommendation. So I usually just pause at 180 and then decide how I'm going to finish it. So it is a tedious step, but you can see once I get all of that paint out, I'm going to have a nice finish when I go to put the stain on. So that's how I do it. Make sure that you get all of that paint off. That's the bummer thing about a paint when you're stripping paint, but little details make a big difference. Since the top is laminate and I don't have a maker's mark, I'm just going to paint the top. So I think that's just the easiest solution. There's a lot of different things you can do, but I think this is going to be a good one for this particular piece. So I don't want to get any paint on the body. I've already sanded it. I've kind of done a scuff sand on it, and now I'm using a primer.
It makes it easier to spray.
I'll make sure I do 2 coats of this, sanding in between coats, and then once that has fully dried, I'll do another scuff sand, make sure that it's dusted off, and then I'll be ready for my first coat of black paint. I'm using Gallery Series. This is by Sherwin-Williams. This is a new little gun that I got. I'm still trying to kind of work out the bugs on it, but I will probably come back with my Erlax and do a final coat. After this dries, I'll give it a scuff sand, and then I'll do another coat.
Today is stain day, so I have a couple different woods going on in this piece. So I know I'm gonna have to treat it a little bit differently. Let me show you how you can tell what a piece is gonna look like when you actually stain it. So here is raw wood. And if I put some water on it, that's gonna show me what it looks like if I just clear coated it, okay? Now here's a drawer front. If I spray it, you can see it is significantly darker. So here is the leg and here is the drawer. And then I even have my new walnut veneer. It's gonna be a little different than the older veneer that's had a chance to kind of be in the sun. So you can see that's quite a bit browner. I have brown, and then I have this light color that kind of looks a little yellowy, and then I have, this is actually a really beautiful brown. So I'm gonna have to obviously use different stains and some possibly toners in order to get all of this to match, because I don't want a two-tone finish, I want it to blend. I went to Lowe's this weekend to pick out some stains from Minwax for this project. So I like to kind of go with a couple different stains, because I know if I just pick up one color, it's not gonna work for all the pieces. Here are the ones I picked up. I got Provincial, Special Walnut, and Early American. I also have some others in my stash that I can use, but I'm gonna start with these 3 to see if I can blend them to get a similar color. The other cool thing about these is you can actually mix these in with your top coat if you want to make a custom toner. So let's start with these, see what we need to do, see if I need to add some extra toner, but let's go. Before I start with any staining though, I'm going to start with my pre-stain conditioner. This is also from Minwax. I chose the oil-based one because I'm using an oil-based stain, but this is just gonna help you prevent any kind of blotchiness or streaks. And so I'll start with this, and then I'll move on to stain after that. The application for this is you're going to apply it with a brush or a rag. You're gonna wait 5 to 15 minutes before wiping off, and then you're going to need to apply your stain within 2 hours. Any kind of rags you use are combustible, so make sure that you dispose of your rags, let them dry out. I always lay mine out flat, let them dry, and then you can dispose of them after that. It's 10 minutes probably since I put this on, so I'm just going to wipe off the excess with a lint-free rag here. My pre-stain has had a chance to dry and now I'm ready for stain. So I've decided I'm going to start with Early American on the drawers and see how that does. I may have to mix things, I'm not sure, but I'm just going to start here and see if I like it. I'm going to stir it up really good. I'm going to use a foam brush and then I'll pull back the excess with a lint-free cloth. This is the Early American. I'm going to try this one first, see if I like it. I'm just using a foam brush to apply it. I'm going to make long strokes with the grain. Make sure you have enough on there because this is a penetrating stain. So you have to have enough on there so that it penetrates down deep into the wood. And according to the directions, you want to leave it set about 5 to 15 minutes. If I want it darker, I can always do a second layer. Just want to make sure I have enough on there so that it can penetrate deep down into the wood. Because unlike gel stain that sits on top of the wood, this penetrates deep into the wood. Okay, I'm going to leave that set for about 5 to 15 minutes and then I'll come back and wipe off the excess. It's been 5 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe off the excess. Whoa. Oh, that is beautiful. Gorgeous. Now this side is all original, even this banding. So I feel really comfortable that I can use the Early American on it as well and get the same tone. So I'm really gonna have to start color correcting when I get to the other side. But for right now, I'm using this and I think it'll be perfect, a good match for the drawers. Again, I'm using nice long strokes, making sure that I put enough on. Sometimes that's a mistake I've made in the past, is you just gotta make sure you put on enough product. Don't be skimpy with it.
So I just want to make sure.
Okay. Here are all my legs. You can see even they have different tones, even just after the pre-stain conditioner. So I will start with an Early American and just show you how different the stain will take on this wood since it's so light. We'll see how much it absorbs. I'll let it set for, maybe I'll let it set for a little bit longer. I let the other set for 5 minutes. Why don't I let this set for about 15 and see how dark I can get these legs. Okay, here's the other side, and this is the new veneer, and it definitely takes the stain differently. So you can see, not too bad. You can see this just a little richer and deeper because it's had time to darken over time, because this is the original veneer up top. So we'll let it set. After I put it on, I'll wipe it back and show you how different those veneers are. Here's the other piece of veneer that I also changed out and replaced. And so you can see it's just browner. I'll leave it on, and then when we wipe it back, we'll see how different it is. And there's some wood in the middle that's just weird, and you can see it looks like I've burned through some of the veneer on it. It's very thin wood. I'm not even sure what it is, so I'll probably just have to go darker with this or tone it
Not even sure how much of that will be seen, but this is a completely different wood. Very thin. I don't know that it's original because it's like a really cheaply made wood. So I'm not sure what's going on with that part, but we'll just stain it and then see. Go ahead and wipe this side back. So here's the new veneer and here's the old veneer. You can see how much richer and deeper the old veneer is, but that's okay, we'll fix it. So here's the legs, and you can see the way that they took the stain is just a lot lighter, obviously. So this is American, early American, this is early American, this is walnut, this is probably maybe a birch, something very light. So these things just take different. So sometimes stain, you just have to try things and then go darker if you have to. So I knew these would take light because of the wood. So sometimes stains just take differently on different woods. So we're gonna go a little darker on this one and see if we can get closer to the tone we're looking for. So you can see the tone of the legs are a lot lighter. So I need to go quite dark. So what I'm gonna do a little mixing. So I have some black, was in my stash. So I'm gonna add a little bit of black, and I think I'm gonna add it to the special walnut and see how dark I can get. Okay, I did like a 2-to-1. So I did two teaspoons of the special walnut, and then I'm gonna do 1 teaspoon of the true black. Let's apply that and see if we like that tone. And that's definitely getting closer to what I'm looking for. Let's compare. Hard to tell in the light, but this is what it was originally. I got a little bit darker. I feel like I need more red. This is just straight provincial. Let me let this set for a couple minutes and see what this gives me. I feel like the provincial has a little bit of red in it, so I'm gonna try it on the sides as well. See if I can redden that new veneer just a little bit. I've got the tones a lot closer together. I'm gonna finish it out with a little bit of toning. This is a light red mahogany by Mohawk, and then I'm gonna use a little bit of the mahogany on top, and then I'll come back with a little bit more of the like a brown on top of that. So again, I'm just kind of blending those together. I'll use the mahogany on the legs too, just to add a little bit more red to them and help them blend a little bit better. I decided I'm going to use the Minwax Fast Dry Polyurethane. I'm going to try the warm semi-gloss. I've been using flat lately, but I kind of think that the semi-gloss might look really good with this. But I did go ahead and get their ultra warm flat just in case I change my mind. This product is one that says to apply with a brush, so you can do that. Obviously I spray it, but I can recoat after 3 to 4 hours. So I'm just waiting, and then I will recoat it, but I'm liking the semi-gloss so far, so we'll see. I can always switch to the flat if I think it's too shiny, because the last coat determines the sheen. So we'll wait 3 to 4 hours and come back and do another coat. Well, for my second coat, I decided to pivot back to the flat. So I really love the warm flat. So I do like the semi-gloss, but it was just not quite what I was going for. So again, your final sheen is determined by your last coat of top coat. So you can start with gloss, you can start with anything you want. What your last coat is, that's the sheen that is determined. One quick little thing, I'm gonna use some gel stain on that area in the middle that was a different color wood. Then I'm ready to attach my new hardware, and we're almost done. Well, let's look back at the before. This was a crazy piece. It kind of looks like a crazy patchwork quilt, doesn't it? But man, I was really concerned with all those sanding swirls that I found and the paint that was just, I don't know what was going on the side. But after all that work, here is the finished product. What do you think? It's pretty good, isn't it? I know. It looks like a completely different dresser. The hardware, I mean, beautiful. It needed to be there. You know, it can't just be a beautiful dresser. It has to function. You need to be able to open and close the drawers. That's really important. And man, I mean, that sheen, I love it. Let's look back at a couple of the before. So there's that top, and then there was that crazy side. Here's the top. Beautiful black finish. Look at the grain, the wood grain. There's another shot of the front of the drawers. Here's another side of it with all the paint off. Whoa, have I convinced you that Early American by Minwax is a beautiful color especially for walnut and mid-century modern pieces? It's my new favorite. I love it. So I really want to thank Minwax for sponsoring this video. Their products really made this piece come to life. I love it. Tell me what you think in the comments, and thanks so much for watching.